Thomas Hamilton is the new mayor of the town of Moncks Corner after beating out the current mayor last week by 54% of the vote. I talked one-on-one with the mayor-elect about what he'll do in office for his term for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Moncks Corner Mayor-elect Thomas Hamilton, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Well, thank you for having me. I searched you up on Google a little bit, and I want to congratulate you. You're doing great things with your podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it greatly. Appreciate it, and I love helping this community. And I know, too, that you love this community because, obviously, you're now the mayor-elect for the town of Moncks Corner. In fact, last week, you became the mayor-elect after winning the race, 54% of the vote to your opponents, 45% of the vote. Tell me, Mr. Hamilton, what does 54 to 45 mean to you?
Well, it means I have some work to do because I'm going to be mayor to everyone, the ones that voted for me and the ones that didn't vote for me. So I want to earn their trust. I want to bring a level of transparency back to Moncks Corner. So that just means I won, but that doesn't mean my work is done.
And Mayor-elect, let me ask you, how transparent has the town of Moncks Corner been with the citizens of that town?
Well, I started uncovering, putting information out. And a lot of people didn't know some of the things that was going on. I didn't know until I started digging into them. So under my administration, when the town goes to do something, I want to have it out on our Facebook page. I'm going to use my social media. I want people to know. I want people to get involved. I want them to come to our council meetings. I want them to speak, ask questions of us. You know, I have an open door policy. My telephone number is going on the town's website. And I've told people, if you need me, call me. If you see me in my yard, if my gate's open, come by the house. I mean, we're a small community that's growing at a pretty rapid pace. But I don't want to lose that small town feel.
What do you hope to grow Moncks Corner smartly?
Well, one thing that I don't want to see is us to overdevelop without being involved with the school system, looking at the roads, looking at our intersections. Because right now we have some projects that are coming, but they're about 5 years behind. So we have a lot of traffic jams at certain locations, and when we add these huge developments, we're just making that even worse. And I also want to start looking at bringing in some affordable housing options along with these developments because we're growing, but a lot of things are still outside people's reach on affordability.
So what is the typical income for a resident in the town of Moncks Corner right now?
I do not have that data. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm kind of in a transition period now. I mean, if you look at the mean of the Charleston area, it's still with rents at $2,000 a month. You know, it's hard for people, especially a single parent if they have kids. You know, you still have to feed them, clothe them, pay for school. You know, there's a lot of things that go into raising a family, and when you throw in that high of a rent, then a lot of people are barely surviving right now.
So when you look at the town of Moncks Corner, Mayor, how many apartments do you have for rent versus people who actually own homes?
Well, right now in Moncks Corner, we're just starting on the growth of the apartments. Fox Bank has just starting to finish a huge chunk of the apartments. We are seeing a lot more townhomes. We have those coming on, but even those, when they're for rent, I mean, it's still right around $2,000. So Berkeley County has been good about, they have a townhome community coming up on College Park Road that's going to be geared toward first responders and teachers. So the rents on those will be reduced to something that someone can afford. So, you know, my thing is to get in and start addressing some of these issues. What groups can we work with? Who can we reach out to? and what we can do to include an affordable housing option in some of these developments.
Now, Mayor, I know that you mentioned earlier that obviously the town of Moncks Corner, just like any other municipality in the Low Country, is actually growing. So, where exactly could land be, or where is land available for affordable housing in Moncks Corner?
Well, right now, Moncks Corner goes, if you've ever been here, we go past Cypress Gardens Road. We are over the Tailrace Canal on 52, and we've pushed down Highway 6. So there's a lot of land available. And there's a lot of developments that has already been approved and are to be approved. And it's up to us as town leaders to have the conversation with these builders before we approve to say, what kind of options do you have for affordable housing? And try to push them at least to give us a percent of the development that is affordable, especially when they're going to be rental properties.
So, okay, how many rental properties do you expect will come to the town of Moncks Corner in the next 5 years?
Well, with anything, each development will have a certain percent. Some allow 10% of the homes to be, but really, how do you regulate that? So it's kind of a flux. I don't want to see these massive 3-4 story apartments in the heart of Moncks Corner, but I do want to see us approve development. But I want to get to a point where the development is for the good of the people. You know, we can just grow and grow and grow, and it doesn't benefit the citizens of Moncks Corner. It creates overcrowded schools. It creates overcrowded roads. You know, we're just not ready to be as big as Somerville or Goose Creek yet. We don't have the infrastructure.
How do you stop Moncks Corner from becoming the next Hanahan or Somerville or Goose Creek?
You got to plan it. I mean, you got to have your comprehensive plan. You've got to look at what developments that we have, where we can put them, and work with the school district. That's number one with me. We got to start, before we approve these massive developments, we have to go to the school district and say, can we support this many kids in this school? And if the answer is no, then we really got to look at not approving that and waiting until the schools can build and handle the students that are coming, because they're behind as well.
And I was thinking about this because I know, and I'm looking at the calendar right now, I'm supposed to be interviewing Dr. Dixon on the 27th for Quintin's close-up, so I definitely want to ask him about that. But let me ask you this, Mayor. Are there enough schools to handle the growth in Moncks Corner right now?
No, there isn't. And one thing I talked to Dr. Dixon about when I was on the campaign trail is, for Moncks Corner, the middle school that we have, Moncks Corner Middle School, it's overcrowded. And I asked him, what's the plan? And he had told me that they are looking at a middle school for the Fox Bank area. And, you know, we're getting to a point where we're going to need another high school in the Carnes Crossroad area as well, because Cane Bay is overcrowded, and the people that live in Cane Bay are sending their kids to Goose Creek, and it causes so much frustration. People buy a house in a community thinking, well, my kids will go to school here, and they're being bused somewhere else, and it's really not a good system. It's just we've grown so fast that the schools haven't kept up, but they did pass the 1 cent tax, so they do have plans for schools, but like everything else, you're still 5 years down the road, so they have to be approving schools quicker, getting them built. So, and Moncks Corner, we're facing the same growth, because when our core is the center of Moncks Corner, then we still have to provide police, firefighting, you know, garbage service to all these, so it stretches us then as well, and we're also playing catch up with growth.
So now that you're playing catch up with growth, how does that affect your budget?
Well, they raised taxes in 2020 15%. So, and a lot of that was for salaries, because we started losing people to other towns, right? Because they paid more. So the town council and the previous mayor, they were aggressive with that to get some of the salaries up to a better level to keep people. So we're able to maintain the employees that we have, and of course we want to look at cost of livings every year. But we are bringing in a good tax revenue in Moncks Corner. We're healthy. We've paid down debt over the last few years. And one of the things we want to do, they have a proposal for some recreation in Moncks Corner. And they have several different projects. So one thing I'm going to have to do is to get in there, get on the ground, work with our council, get feedback from our residents and pick the projects that we can do, can fund without raising taxes. That's the key. We don't want to, people are struggling now. We don't want to burden them with more taxes.
Now, I'm being redundant here, Mayor, but where exactly would the land be for this particular project?
That's right there at the town ball fields, right in the middle of town. We have a recreational complex.
Yes, sir.
We already have land for pickleball court set aside, rec center with a pool set aside. Another project is our Lacey Park. It's a park in the middle of town. It's kind of outdated. So we have the land, we have the space. It's just lining up the funding. We're working on some grant money. We're working on, looking at if we could borrow some, and it's just that's what I have to get into because I'm a person that wasn't on town council, and now I'm going into the mayor's job, so I do have some catch up to do for sure.
I'm going ahead of myself, Mayor, but if you were to borrow some money, how would that affect the town's debt? That is.
Well, since we carry low debt, of course, our revenues are only going up because we're adding houses, at a pretty good clip. I don't know if you're familiar with Moncks Corner, but we used to have a nursery in town, and we've started developing housing and townhomes on that. Of course, Fox Bank is still growing out. We have another big development at Cypress Gardens in 052 that has just started, and it's going to be a big development. So we are growing, which will bring in more revenue. So it's like anything else. You go buy a home and you pay it back monthly, quarterly, whatever you set up your payments as. And as long as we are strong and bringing in the revenue, it shouldn't be a problem. And you want to provide things for your citizens. Right now, Moncks Corner, on the weekend, there's not a lot to do. Where Goose Creek, North Charleston, Somerville, they'll have parks, splash pads, pickleball, nice tennis courts. And right now, we just don't have any of that. So people have to travel, and they take their money out of Moncks Corner when they do that. We want them to come back, and we want them to spend their money here. Most of us, like I travel to North Charleston every day for work. Okay. So I'm in traffic. So I like to get people to where on the weekends they can enjoy their family without spending a lot of time in traffic to get there.
Would you be in favor of a state-of-the-art, connectivity center for arts and recreation?
Well, one thing that I want to do is create a stronger tie with the Berkeley County government because we are home, to the county seat in Moncks Corner. There's some things that I feel like as a county that they could work on and we could help with. We are still a smaller town, so we have to look at where the money goes. Like right now we have outdoor basketball courts, but in the middle of summer they're empty because who wants to play in 110-degree heat? And to me, a rec center with a pool, that's going to help the young people with the basketball. We can have pickleball indoors. We can have senior programs. We can have kids programs. I think that would be something that brings the community together. So, and arts and culture, that would be great, but I don't know if that's the fit for us.
Now, Mayor, you mentioned a lot about the seniors, and I know, in the city of North Charleston, they have a plethora of senior centers. Do you need that for this town of Moncks Corner?
I think a rec center with the pool will have the rooms,
Yeah.
will have senior programs, because right now we had the YMCA
Yes.
and it closed. So right now, Moncks Corner, we have the standard gyms, the Planet Fitnesses, and a few others like that, but we don't really have a community center. And to me, a rec complex that kind of serves as your community. It's a focal point, and you can bring in and have senior bingo or arts and craft for kids, after school mentoring. There's a lot of things you can do within that center, and it's really in the center, the heart of Moncks Corner, and I think it would be good for our community. It's just a big ticket item, so we have to figure out how to fund it.
And what other funding sources would you look at?
Well, one thing we could do is, of course, we can look at grants. That's one of the big things, because there are a lot of grants out there. Corporate money, we can look for corporate sponsorship. If we went the route of borrowing, we could do a referendum and ask for another penny tax for the recreation center. But here's the thing, I would never just go and put a tax on. I would always let the citizens decide. Give them the option, show them what we have, and then let them decide. Do you want it or don't you want it? So it's up to them.
And going back earlier to what you talked about, obviously is obviously growth in the town of Moncks Corner. What has that pace of growth been like for the town?
We're the fourth fastest growing town in Moncks Corner, in South Carolina. I'm sorry, the last that I heard. So I Google a lot of my information, of course, because I'm not in and I don't have the numbers from the town, but we're growing at a exceptionally fast pace. And I think part of my election was to take a breath, see where the town's going, see what the citizens of the town wants, and that's my task, is to get with council and try to work out a plan. We need to come to a consensus on how big the town needs to be, because we'll be at 25,000 easy within, I'd say, 10 years. And do we want to get to a point where it's Goose Creek, Moncks Corner, and Summerville basically all connected like Charleston and North Charleston is? And I think a lot of people don't want that for our town.
Do you believe the town of Moncks Corner is on a path for vertical growth?
No. No, I don't. One thing I want to do is to make everything fit, with what we are. And, if you want to go to Charleston, Daniel Islands, Goose Creek, you can go there. But that's not us. I mean, they call us the Low Country's hometown for a reason. And, a lot of people have ideals that they just like to grow. They just want to grow and get bigger. But a lot of people moved out this way to get away from that growth and to have a calmer experience in life, and not to be sitting in traffic jams. And it is getting worse here. It is. But what can we do for the future so it's not as bad as trying to go to downtown Somerville at 10 o'clock in the morning and you're stuck in traffic at College Park Road? I mean, there has to be a balance, and that's what I want to work to try to find, a balance.
What is that balance right now? I know that's a silly question.
To me, we need certain things to come in. I'd like to see a Lowe's. I would like to see more sit-down family-type restaurants and less fast food restaurants come into town. I would like to see some 55 and over communities for Moncks Corner. We do have one, and it's really nice. It's kept up nice, and it's affordable for the seniors. And we have to start thinking about that because we're all getting older. I mean, the USA as a whole, we're getting a little bit older. And where do we let people live? And, single family homes over apartments and townhomes every day for me. I just don't like density, in small areas because to me it brings in the traffic, it overburdens the schools, and we just have to look at each area. Moncks Corner is pretty big. So when a developer comes and says, hey, we want to put 500 houses here, then we just really need to step back, look at the area, look at the schools, look at the roads. And then as we go through the process, we need to listen to the people because there's been some developments where people have showed up. They've had petitions, they've come to meetings, they've emailed, and they still approve it. So they're not listened to. And I think we really need to listen to the town and try to do what they want as well, because they have to live with it.
Yeah. Where exactly in Moncks Corner is there density in those particular small areas that you mentioned?
Well, Fox Bank is a good example. It's a pretty big development. It's a beautiful development. And, within that, it does have shops, parks, lakes, which is good. Moss Grove is another one in Moncks Corner that's a pretty, it's built out, but it has lakes, playgrounds, a field to play in. So, and Old 52 in Cypress is going to be a very dense. So it seems like a lot of our dense growth is in that area of Cypress Gardens in 52. However, there's room for growth down Highway 6. We've heard that there's going to be a development off of 6 that could be in scope of a Cane Bay. So we have to keep our eyes open, our ears open. We have to engage in these landowners and these developers to try to be ahead of it. Don't get caught to where all of a sudden we have a lot of houses and we haven't thought about the schools and the roads and everything that goes into it.
And this is a redundant question, Mayor, but what exactly do you want these developers to bring into your town?
Well, I want them not to cram houses into a development. I'd like there to be, to me, bigger lot sizes. Maybe you have a little less houses, but you have a little bigger lot size. I want them to be able to set aside land for if they need a school. Let's say we need a fire department. Whatever it is that we see, then the developer will have to work with us. Access, landscaping. So there's a lot of things that the town can do and ask for as we go through the permitting process. So that's why it's so important for us to be ahead of it and not to be caught afterwards. We have to be ground, boots on the ground. We have to be very aggressive, and we have to hold the developers to the standards we want for our town and our citizens.
How many of these developers have actually built affordable units in the town of Moncks Corner?
None. I mean, we have one apartment complex that could be considered, but normally there's no affordable housing component in these developments. And that's another reason why I ran, is I think that we have to start addressing that. At least get the conversation out in the open, get community support, and then as a town, as the leadership of the town, to go after and try to bring some of that development to Moncks Corner.
And how many homes have been built at a fairly consistent rate over the past 3 years?
Well, you think about I have a report just in the last couple months that 100 of the apartments are ready to be, moved into. So it's been hundreds. I mean, it's crazy how fast we've grown. And a lot of these houses, they're nice. There's 300,000 and up.
Oh, yeah.
But right now, 300,000 and up, and you're running at about 7.5% interest rate on a loan is out of reach for so many people. And I just think that us as citizens owe it to people that are trying, they're working, they're struggling, scraping up every dime each month to pay their rent. I think we can try to do better for them. Seniors that's on limited Social Security, we can do a little better for them. And that's what I'm going to try to bring in and push. It takes me, it takes our town council, and I at least want to bring the conversation to the table. Like I said, I'm coming into this. I've never been political. I've never held office, but I have ideals. And I've talked to so many people that's told me what they'd like to see. So my thing is to get with our town administrator, try to work on what I would like to see, get him on board, and then we start trying to implement some of these things that we're talking about today.
And I hope to get you back on Quintin's Close-Ups in the spring when you're actually in office so we can talk more about this and some of the plans you have for the town. But for now, Moncks Corner Mayor-elect Thomas Hamilton, thank you for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Well, thank you, and you have a great weekend.
Likewise.